All right. Tonight's lesson in learning to read biblical Hebrew, we're going to look at the letters He, Vav, and Zayin. And let me get back here to there we go. These are the, let's see, fifth, sixth, and seventh letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And these lessons are designed to help students recognize the letters visually, pronounce them correctly, understand their grammatical function, to learn historically grounded messages, primarily from Jewish and academic sources, with the lean toward academic. And also to see how Hebrew letters contribute depth and texture to the language of Scripture. So, an important foundation. Before we begin, it's important to understand how we are approaching the meanings of the Hebrew letters. Ancient Hebrew letters originally developed from pictographic forms, and I think Rabbi Jay has made a very good point that Joseph probably was a father of the writing of Hebrew, and he would have taken uh, the pictographs of the Egyptian language and transformed them into uh, letter depictions. Rather than depicting ideas, they depicted sounds, and then those sounds could be put together in a way that they could transfer their spoken language, excuse me, by writing it down. We get, if it wasn't Joseph, by all means, it was Moses. But I think by the time of Moses, it was already in a written form, where the language had primarily been an oral language before that. There are some good ideas that come from the rabbinic literature on the letters. Um, Medieval commentators, scribal traditions, later mystical writings, although we'll not get into that a lot. Uh, but there's some insights into the letters that help us gain a deeper meaning of the Torah if we use them properly. However, some modern Hebrew roots and Messianic teachings make claims that cannot be historically verified. That doesn't mean necessarily that they're not true. They're just not accepted. Some of the ideas that are put out there, and believe me, there's so many on the internet that it boggles the mind. Many of these symbolic interpretations are devotional rather than linguistic. And I want to distinguish between the historical evidence, traditional interpretation, and later mystical reflection. So in these lessons, we're focusing primarily, not completely, but primarily on verifiable linguistic information. I think that should be our foundation. And then building on it, traditional Jewish sources, grammatical function, and literary and theological depth grounded in the scriptures, primarily the Tanakh. We may occasionally mention mystical or symbolic traditions, but we'll do so carefully, and hopefully I will do it responsibly. So I'm not going to write on the whiteboard. I put that in there for a note for myself, but we have already looked at the letters Aleph, Bet, and Vet, the Gimel, the Dalet, and tonight we'll be looking at the Hey, Vav, and the Zayin, and reading from right to left as Hebrew is. So this progression is not strict doctrine. I've seen so many memes online that says this is what this means. Well, that might be what it means to you, and that's fine. But to say this is what it means is something different. It's a teaching framework that helps us as students to remember the letters and to reflect on patterns that's found in Hebrew thought. So we learned in our first lesson of the consonants that the aleph has the idea of source, strength, and beginning. The bet has the idea of a house or a dwelling, a tent. We go into the gimel, and it has the idea of movement or provision because the gimel uh, historically was connected with the camel, which was the primary method of moving goods from one area to another. The letter Dalet uh, is a door or pathway. And Hey has the idea of revelation or expression. We'll see later the symbol of the man with the upraised arms. Uh, the Vav has the idea of connection or joining, and we'll talk about that. I talk about that a little bit in my little video on the letter Vav and how to write it. The Zayin has the idea of action or purpose. So, one possible conceptual flow is the source, a dwelling is formed, movement and provision begin, access and entry appear, revelation and breath emerge, things become connected, and purposeful actions follow. So we can see the progression of the letters of the alphabet actually kind of paint a picture for us. The letter Zayin, the last letter that we'll look at tonight, it sounds like our English letter Z, Z. Some examples are Zeh, which means this, Zeh Melech, this king, Zakar, to remember, and its ancient form in Paleo Hebrew is most likely represented a weapon, a blade, a tool. It looked like this. And I got to thinking, what an adze, is there a connection between an adze, which is a tool, to the Zayin in Hebraic thought? Something that we could look at. And these are the earliest and the later form. And then modern day, it looks like this. The lady that taught me how to read Hebrew used to say that it was shapely like a lady. I don't know. It's got form to it, a small but distinct letter, and students should carefully distinguish between the Zayin and the Vav. Notice in the Zayin, let me go ahead and make that bigger so you can see it better. Notice it has this little overhang right there. That has to be there because if we don't, it becomes a letter Bob. See how close they are? And if we don't pay attention to it, it can really mess with us. So it's very important, and I bring that out in my little video again. Uh, keep the overhang on the roof. Don't let it become a Vav. And as I said, we make a line across, and then we come back and make a line down. Unlike Hay and Vav, Zayin does not have any major standalone grammatical functions. It primarily functions as a regular consonant within words. It's not a conjunction. It's not a definite article or any of the thing of that sort. Because of its ancient association with tools and weapons, Jewish tradition sometimes connects Zayin with sustenance, labor, defense, and action. It is the number 7, as we'll learn. And some rabbinic discussions associate the number 7, which is its gematria. It's gematria. I'll get that out. Shabbat, completion, covenant cycles, and sacred time. Since Zayin equals 7, it's connected to those thoughts. The 7 days of creation, 7-day Sabbath, the 7 annual appointed times, and the 7 branch menorah are all connected in Jewish thought by certain rabbis with the number 7, and it appears constantly throughout Scripture. So, zahav is another word that means gold, and it begins with the letter zav. The Zayin often points toward purposeful activity or identification. So looking at this, knowledge must eventually become action. I don't care how much I know, if I don't take action as a result of that knowledge, I'll never be successful. Hebrew learning is not merely academic. Scripture repeatedly connects hearing, remembering, and doing together. We hear something, we remember it, and we do it, especially when we have ADD. Learning should shape our conduct. Here's a few that I didn't take out. The pathak, the ah sound, za, the kametz, the za, with the segol, it's a zeh. With the tzere, we would have zeh. With the hidik, especially the long hidik, we have a z. And with the short hidik, we would have a zih. And then with the cholam, vav, we have the zu, or the shurik, I'm sorry. With the shurik, we have the zu. And with the cholam, we have the zo. I guess if we put a hirik yud on the end of that, we would have the name Zoe. I just thought of that. Sorry, that was free. So comparison review on these. The he is revelation expression, the number 5. The vav is a v, or in some cases a w. Connection, number 6. And the Zayin is a z sound with action and purpose in the number 7. So using the words we had and a couple of extra. Have or have, vazeh, and this, who, he. Zahav, gold, v'hineh, and behold. Hazahav, the gold. So when you start out, I would just say read slowly at first. I think Yoshi will verify this. You're going to read slowly at first. I know I did. And try to pronounce them clearly so that you don't get bad habits like me of saying comets. It's not comets. And I appreciate that the ladies that attended at the library that night, she pointed out to me, it's really comets. So, and if we're going to read from the Torah and learning the Masoretic pointing, it's not as important, but I think it would do us good to learn that there's a difference between the comets and the pathak, and difference between the sere and the sago, a and and so forth. And learn to pronounce our words clearly. I'm bad about that, I admit. Identify the vowels carefully and don't guess at it because guessing creates bad habits. Accuracy will build fluency. If we practice it slowly at first and get that accuracy, it will build a fluency in our reading later on, and we'll appreciate it. I guarantee you. Final encouragement: the Hebrew letters are not merely symbols. They form the structure of the language of Scripture. And I would say, as students, we should continue learning. Vocabulary will come easier as we go along. Grammar will become clearer as we get into it. Patterns will become more visible. And biblical passages will become more accessible. We'll find deep, hidden things. You know, the psalmist says, show me in your word, and I'm paraphrasing this, show me in your word magnificent things. Consistent daily practice matters more than speed. Don't try to do it fast. Just 10 to 15 minutes a day. That's all it takes to build a good foundation. And when we have a solid foundation, we'll build a good house. So practice writing each letter 20 times. Read the vowel combinations aloud daily. Memorize the numerical values, because in counting in Hebrew, you will need that. Hey is 5, Vav is 6, Zayin 7, Ayin we haven't got to yet. Aleph is 1, Bet is 2, Gimel 3, Dalet is 4. So find these letters in Genesis 1. Go online to, if you need to, go to Safaria. Hebcal has wonderful Hebrew text on there. Look at Genesis 1. If you have a Bible software program on your computer that has the Hebrew volumes on it, look at it. Look and find these letters in Psalm 1. Look at the letters in the Shema, Deuteronomy 6, 4, 9. Start looking and seeing, oh, I can pick that out. I see it. I see it. There's a Vav. And I see that it's got the Shua under it. I see the Vav and it's got a Kametz under it. You know, whatever. Start picking them out of the literal text of the scriptures, and it'll make it come alive in ways that maybe you never even imagined. So in closing, shalom, everyone. Let's continue practicing the consonants and vowels together. And the more exposure you have to pointed Hebrew text, the easier it's going to become when you're called on to read from the Torah scrolls, because you'll begin and you'll pick up more vocabulary as you go along, and it'll become easier to read.